We have a heck of a show planned for you tonight, and the universe, just throwing us curveballs and trying to give us an excuse not to have a show tonight just shows me how valuable it is to persevere, bust through those walls, break through onto the other side, and get her done.
But basically, we're hosting an event here in Nashville, Tennessee, or it's just outside of Nashville. It's Steve from Slow News Day, the group from the Anartist Collective, anartistcollective.com. We are we're gathering in the hills, out in rural Tennessee. And it's going to be a weekend gathering of live music, live comedy. It's a birthday bash for Steve Poikonen from Slow News Day and Ryan from Last American Vagabond. Ryan's going to be performing. I'm going to be performing songs off my album. We have Spiderland in the house. If you guys haven't heard of Spiderland, they're awesome. And it was
you got camping too.
Yeah, it's a camp out festival. Yeah, 3 day
so it's camp out, live music, podcast, stand-up comedy. Camping, food, and community. So, is it in like a camping park or like?
Nope. So it's one of one of our friends in my little freedom community has a beautiful, large. I think it's like 20 acres or something like that, and it's just beautiful. It's like an actual event space. They have. She's built a barn with a stage, and because she's a pretty well established. Yeah,
okay.
There you go. Third Eye Carnival.
If you want to know more, you go to thirdeyecarnival.com.
Yep.
And $90 for 3 days. That's a good deal, dude. All right. So who organized this? Who made the posters? Because they don't teach us how to do this in school. And yet it's very readily available for people to do stuff like this.
Sure. I made the website there that you're looking at, thirdeyecarnival.com. Teresa, who is the one whose property we're going to be on, you'll get a kick out of this. She's a very talented, famous musician here in Nashville. Her website is teresa.com, teresa.com. She snagged that URL right when the internet came out.
Well played.
Like, yeah, exactly. She's the first Teresa to think of, I might need this. So, yeah. So Steve from Slow News Day, and then Marie and Drew from the band Spiderland are just go-getter, hardcore event organizers. And so they are actually in Nashville now. They just got here this week, and we're full steam ahead getting it put together. We got Sam Tripoli flying in. We got Leonarda Johnny, if you guys aren't familiar with her.
She's hilarious, dude.
She's
I'm doing
great.
Sammy's show next week.
Cool. So we got some heavy hitters. I'm emceeing the comedy show, so I'm super stoked. I've got a bunch of jokes already.
Dude, I thought you were a handyman.
No,
what are you doing? Starting all these businesses and like being an MC and stuff.
No,
I told you could do that. Who gave you permission?
Exactly. Christ, I don't need permission. No, but I've got a bunch of jokes written already. I'm super pumped. I'm going to rip on Sam a little bit. It's going to be great. It's going to be so much fun.
All right, we're going to head into our first media block, and then we'll come back and comment with Paul and Scott. Up in this block, Trump, he didn't do the State of the Union because that's after you're a president for a year. So it was just kind of like his welcome conversation. He said a lot of funny things during it. We're going to cover a little bit of that. Also, Jon Stewart suddenly learns that the Democratic Party's corrupt. It's not my accusation. It's just his realization. We thought we'd put it in the time capsule for people in the future to understand. Because, he's pretty much been willing to say whatever it takes to keep getting those big paychecks from liberal land. And then finally, in his elder years, he's clinging to a little bit of truth and starting to notice contradictions. I just think it's noteworthy. SCOTUS rules that Trump has to pay the $2 billion in aid. It's a bunch of USAID shenanigans that he just cut off. Supreme Court says you got to keep paying those bills because we owe it to those other countries. We have contracts with them. We'll see if we agree or disagree with that. When we come back, go ahead, take it away, Colby. Thank you.
This is the crowd that showed up in order to protest President Trump's speech in Congress. And get a load of what this California Democrat said. Representative Sidney Kamlagar-Dove.
You don't care about this country, and that is unacceptable if you claim to be the president of the United States. So we are here. We are not going anywhere. We are going to continue to fight back, and we are going to continue to speak lies to his truth, to his stealing, and to his cheating.
Of course you're going to continue to speak lies to President Trump's truths.
I've been shocked by how undemocratic the Democratic Party can be.
Now, you'd think that's not a crazy statement, right? But here's her response.
Tell me more. What do you mean by, I don't disagree with you necessarily, but what do you mean by that?
What? What? But also, I might agree. But what?
If I were to break this down narratively, what I think the Democrats have forgotten is government may not be perfect, but it's the only thing large enough to offset multinational corporate exploitation and corruption.
That is true, unless the multinational corporations own, say it with me, the government. They have the levers of the state. They are running the show. There is almost no one allowed in Congress that is not aligned with corporate America. It's called inverted totalitarianism. A lot of people far smarter than me have written whole books about it. Go read one of them, John.
And if we don't act like that's urgent and that affects people's lives, then so if the big policies that we make are billions more dollars to insurance companies that we think are fucking people over left and right for their healthcare, so isn't that part of why people lost faith?
Yeah. So yes, I
Isn't that why people lost faith? Jon Stewart and I operate from, although we may agree on certain things or where we'd like certain things to be, we disagree on just like the central premise of how this system works. Democrats are not your friends. Even if, meaning the ones in government, even if on their platform, the thing it says is something you want, they are not actually fighting for it. Even if the DNC had on their platform universal health care, they're not actually fighting for it. He's under the assumption that they're trying, but they're not working hard enough to do these things. It is two polar opposite assumptions about where our world is.
$2 billion that we know to basically be going to, let's just call it colloquially fraudulent programs, they're going to allow it. And the reason why I say colloquially fraudulent is I'm not outright saying in the legal sense people are defrauding the government. I am saying in the spirit and essence of the law, when we are supposed to be giving money for aid and development, and instead it's going to gender studies, I would call that a lie. But I draw the distinction because some of it probably is criminally fraudulent, but all of it is spiritually deceptive. No one in this country that is defending it knew it was even going on, and those that do are deeply concerned about a major waste of money. Now, I can't say I'm surprised that we got a 5-4 ruling against Trump, because although the court is conservative, you still got Roberts, you still got Amy Coney Barrett, who are going to be like, but we'll see. Was it, in fact, Amy Coney Barrett who sided against Trump? I don't know for sure, but I do know that Alito, who is based, is fuming about this, as is Thomas, because, well, let's just say, can we, I'd like to do this. Can we take Thomas and Alito and clone them? I know Christians and conservatives may have more qualms of cloning, but trust me, having a Supreme Court that is just 9 in whatever combination of Alito and Thomas would be the best thing for this country. You must do it.
The question is, if you pay the money and then you didn't have to pay the money, you don't get the money back. So maybe there's a strategy in waiting or dragging your feet in this case. You don't have to disobey the Supreme Court necessarily, but you also don't want to be expeditious in sending out billions of dollars that really don't need to be sent out there, which was the whole purpose of Doge in the first place. But there's a lot. There's a lot in that block to discuss.
Yeah, there's a lot. I'm just kind of like scratching my head why everyone's losing their mind over $2 billion. Like, to you and me, obviously $2 billion sounds like a lot of money. Like, I wouldn't want to.
Well, one of the next stories
$2 billion
is 137 billion from Doge that they're mucking with. So like 2 billion, yes. But if they set the precedent that you've got contracts with USAID, there was like 40 billion associated with USAID. So I don't know, there could be a ripple effect to that. But also I agree with you on that side as far as like the budget and the debt are multiple trillions of dollars. The 2 billion, I mean,
Yeah. I was just looking it up. It said entitlements alone, welfare, Social Security, Medicaid, all that, 3.7 trillion in 2024. So it's like,
to put it in context, a popular hardware store type of chain has a $2 billion budget a year for loss prevention. Like they plan on people walking out with that money, saws and candy bars or whatever else, boards. And that's just part of running a, I don't know, $100 billion company that you're going to lose 2% in shoplifting or creative thievery, which are some of those cases. But yeah, so it's a lot of money, but it's also a little money. And you got to put it in context, right? It's a lot of money to us, but we don't have anything to do with it. I'm also seeing that my OBS is glitching. I just saw that. So it's not on your end.
I saw a little green action,
Yeah.
cable or something.
I must not have evicted all the gremlins tonight.
No.
But we got enough to get the plane in the air, and we're flying fine. A little turbulence, no big deal. We can handle it. How you doing, Paulie? How you doing on the West Coast?
Oh, we're doing wonderfully. We're just been patiently watching the coronation of the new unelected chief of Canada, who is central banker Mark Carney. And just during the break, I was looking up to see if he had any connection to Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell, and found some photos of him and Ghislaine Maxwell from 2013.
Well, at least it's not Jeffrey and Ghislaine at his cabin sitting on the porch like they did at the Queen's house. What they sat at the Queen's cabin and got their picture taken.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he has no other
Epstein
connection.
met the Queen back in the 70s too, which I thought, like, who introduced him at such a young age to the royalty? Like, what was that connection all about? But that has yet to be excised by most people, I think.
Well, Carney definitely has a connection to the Queen, since he is the former head of the Bank of England. And
Is that what qualifies him for, like, Prime Minister of Canada? You got a Bank of England type guy?
Also the head of the Bank of Canada. So this would be like if the head of the Fed suddenly became the president of the USA and was like, I'm going to make decisions in your best interest.
Sounds like a foreclosure when the bank's in charge of the country.
Foreclosure and liquidation.
Ooh.
Or we might just be greasing the skids to join you guys and become one big super state to rival the European Union. And then we're one step closer to Oceania, East Asia, and Eurasia.
You got to say no to King Chucky III. That's the trick. Can you do that? Can you do that, Canada? If so, we might be able to work with you guys. But if you bring in King Chucky III, no dice.
No.
Started with George III. We're up to Chucky III. No, thank you. Is still the answer here.
Well, and especially Chucky's brother, Andy, and his connections. Again,
Very
it all
close.
loops back in.
Yes. And it was Epstein who used Ghislaine to get introduced to Prince Andrew. I'm pretty sure that's how the connection went. So she was really the kingmaker, and he's outside of that because she inherited that network from her dad, who's a Mossad kingpin who had a yachting accident. Sad but true, these guys. He fell off his boat. Should have been more careful. It must have been slippery.
But I was going to say about USAID, I think a lot of people who are getting their money and their grants from the NGOs that might be like media grants or, essentially the taps of free money. Yeah, they're going to complain. If you're meant to get 70 grand or 100 grand or $1 million, and suddenly someone's like, yeah, we're not going to give that free money to you anymore. Such a shame.
I'm looking forward to getting you a new prime minister into the history blueprint over here. Because if you see, I don't have a whole lot on Canada. Like, this is my entirety of respect for Canada. This is as far as I've gone to learn about Canada. You got the Hudson's Bay Company. You got British North America, part of the British Empire. They got some maritime fur trade. Power Corporation of Canada, that was Momo Strong and Rothschild that came up with UNSAID and the Agenda 21. They do some assassination training at Camp X. That's where Ian Fleming took the kill test, the K test there. You got some Rhodes Scholars going on, and you got this dude whose dad might really have been Castro because his mom was quite popular in those circles. So, yeah, I'm going to have to brush up on some of the Canadian history tonight. Might get another prime minister or two in there, and we'll flesh it out.
Sweet.
Sorry about your despotic tyranny situation with El Duce. That's his new nickname, your guy. Mark, what's his name from the Bank of England?
We call him Carbon Tax Carney.
Carbon Tax Carney. Sounds like a Carney act. No, I like the Canadians, and I might still want to travel to Canada, so I'm going to think ahead on that and keep saying nice things.
Everyone's doing some kind of self-help these days. and you can find a million self-help courses out there. Most other courses out there are hosting lectures. They're hosting videos, they're maybe even doing Q&As, and these are great starting points to encourage learning. But at Autonomy, we believe that hands-on practice is the best way to really lock in what we're learning. There's no better way to gain confidence and mastery than through action. After each lecture, we practice the concepts we've learned with other students, giving and receiving feedback in a non-judgmental environment. The result is mastery of concepts like entrepreneurship, ethical sales, and self-reliance in an environment that directly translates to the real world. Plus, you make connections with other like-minded individuals who are learning right alongside you, and you have a lifetime membership in the community. The Autonomy course with Richard Grove equips you with confidence, competence, and courage in a world filled with confusion and noise. You can learn more at getautonomy.info. We'll see you there.
What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man.